The morning air was crisp, the kind that stings your lungs just enough to feel alive. Ethan Caldwell had been out for his usual 5-mile run, his sneakers pounding the pavement of Willow Creek, a neighborhood so pristine it looked like it had been lifted from a real estate brochure. Beige houses, manicured lawns, and rules so tight they could choke you. Ethan's place was different, a weathered ranch house, inherited from his grandfather, sitting just beyond the HOA's and VY Cybele fence. It wasn't part of their domain, but try telling that to Susan Whitaker. She was the kind of woman who saw violations in a blade of grass out of place and treated her clipboard like a scepter. Ethan slowed to a jog as he neared his driveway, his breath VY Cybele in the dawn light. The gate, always locked, hung open like an unanswered question. His pulse quickened not from the run, but from the sight of a dented blue sedan parked crookedly on the curb, a faded sticker proclaiming, "Community Standards Patrol." Trouble. He knew it before he even stepped into his garage. There they were, two strangers standing among his tools like they owned the place. A wiry man, maybe 50, clutched Ethan's torque wrench as if it were a grenade. The woman, all sharp angles and sharper eyes, held a clipboard and a phone already recording. "This property's in violation," she snapped, not even looking up. No hello, no apology, just pure, unearned authority. Ethan's garage was his sanctuary, a fortress of oil-stained concrete and shelves packed with gear. It was also wired with cameras, every angle covered. And his family? They didn't just respect the law, they enforced it. "Who are you, and why are you in my garage?" Ethan's voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. The woman, later identified as Linda, Susan's right-hand enforcer, barely blinked. "These tools could be tied to unpermitted modifications," she said, scribbling on her clipboard. The man muttered something about unauthorized equipment, his jaw twitching like he knew they were in deep. Ethan pointed to the dome camera in the corner. Linda's eyes flicked to it, and for the first time, a crack appeared in her smugness. The man whispered, "We should go." She ignored him. Susan Whitaker wasn't on any ballot, but she ruled Willow Creek's HOA like a dictator. She ran the social page, chaired the beautification committee, and orchestrated violations for infractions as petty as a trash can left out 10 minutes too long. Ethan's house, free from her grip, drove her wild. His grandfather's land predated the HOA, and the deed was ironclad. Susan had tried before notes on his mailbox about VY Cybele engine parts, or non-compliant fencing. Now, it seemed, she'd escalated to breaking and entering. Ethan pulled out his phone, opened his security app, and played back the footage. There it was, Linda and her sidekicks slipping through the gate, her gesturing at the shelves, him filming like they were on a sting operation. "You have no right to be here," Ethan said, slower this time, recording the exchange. Linda clucked her tongue. "Some people don't get community standards," she muttered. Ethan texted one word to his family group chat, "Saw garage." Saw. 5 minutes later, his sister Emily texted back. 2 minutes after that, his mom, Sheriff Margaret Caldwell, called. "Sheriff's Department or family first?" she asked, voice clipped. "Bring coffee," Ethan replied. This wasn't just about a torque wrench. It was about a line crossed, and the Caldwells didn't let that slide. While they waited, Linda launched into a lecture about military-grade gear in a CIVY lien zone. Ethan deadpanned. "It's a torque wrench, not a missile." She didn't laugh. Instead, she pointed to a battered metal case under a shelf. "Is that a weapons box?" Ethan sighed. "It's a lunchbox." She wrote it down anyway. The man beside her looked like he was praying for a sinkhole. The sheriff's SUV rolled up first. Margaret stepped out, badge gleaming, her presence like a storm cloud. She didn't speak, just fixed Linda with a stare that could peel paint. Linda stammered, "Are you police?" Margaret smiled thinly. "You're on my son's property without permission. That's trespassing. Touch anything, and it's attempted theft. Care to explain before I make this official?" Linda clutched her clipboard. We're HOA, ensuring compliance. Margaret pointed to the camera. Not anymore. Then came Ethan's brother, Nathan, ATF badge flashing as he leaned against his unmarked Charger, casual but lethal. Emily arrived last, FBI stride cutting through the morning haze, her laptop bag slung over one shoulder. Linda's face soured like she'd bitten a lemon. The man raised his hands. I told her this was a bad idea. Susan didn't show, but her shadow loomed. Linda kept name-dropping, our chairwoman, like it was a shield. Margaret asked for Linda's full name. She refused. We'll find out, Margaret said, her smile a warning. Ethan told them to leave. Linda hesitated, muttering about non-compliance, but finally slunk back to her sedan, the man trailing like a scolded dog. The driveway became a quiet law enforcement summit. Margaret stood guard, arms crossed. Nathan scanned the garage, silent but watchful. Emily opened her laptop, pulling up records of Susan's past stunts. 3 other properties harassed, 1 elderly couple bullied into MOVYing. Ethan stayed calm, the eye of the storm, as he showed them the HOA charter, a 20-year-old document pro-VYing his exemption. Linda had waved it off as outdated. Margaret shut that down. Exemptions don't expire because you don't like them. Linda tried claiming she was acting on multiple resident complaints. Emily's screen told a different story. It was all Susan, hiding behind proxies. Nathan finally spoke, his voice low. Did you open anything in there? Because if you touched restricted hardware, that's a federal issue. Linda paled. We didn't take anything. The man muttered. We need to go. This time, she listened. As they fled, Ethan checked his inventory, making a show of scanning serial numbers. Nothing was missing, but the violation burned. Susan had sent her minions into his home. Now it was his move. Margaret asked. File it formally? Ethan shrugged. Let's see how Susan squirms first. Susan went silent for 3 days, her usual patrols and group chat rants vanishing. Ethan waited, patient as a hunter. On the 4th day, as Susan crept back online, he posted the footage to the community page with a simple caption, Saw unauthorized HOA VY sit to my garage. Here's what happens when someone pretends to have power they don't. Saw the response was explosive. Neighbors, long silenced, shared their own stories: a fine for an RV, a citation for a dog bowl, a flag deemed too large. Susan's empire cracked. Her response was a rambling post, claiming Ethan's open gate was an invitation, and Linda was a volunteer. The Fujima stamps, latch lifted from outside, proved otherwise. That night, the HOA summoned Ethan to a closed-door meeting. He RSVP'd, asking to bring counsel. Their panicked reply: not necessary. They were scared. The meeting, held in the HOA clubhouse, felt like a kangaroo court. Susan stood rigid, eyes blazing. Ethan, in a faded tee reading, "Not your jurisdiction," was unflappable. The board president, Harold Vance, tried diplomacy, but Ethan laid out the EVY Denke, charter, footage, trespassing laws. Susan claimed Linda acted alone, but Ethan produced a screenshot of Linda bragging about Susan's enforcement team. Gasps echoed. The board voted swiftly. Susan was suspended, a complaint filed. Ethan left without a word. Outside, neighbors clapped out loud, but enough. Ethan nodded, calm as ever. At home, his family gathered. Emily brought pie, Nathan grilled, and Grandma, sipping beer with a police scanner nearby, asked, "Charges or disgrace?" Ethan grinned. "Disgrace hurts more." Margaret filed a trespassing report. Linda cracked under questioning, pinning it on Susan. A week later, deputies arrived at Susan's door. She stepped out, pale and silent, cuffs glinting. The neighborhood watched, curtains twitching. Ethan posted a sign by his mailbox. Saw entry without permission is a crime. Smile, we caught the last one. Saw. A news van came, the story airing as Garage Justice. Ethan hosted a barbecue, neighbors swapping stories of Susan's reign. Laughter replaced fear. The HOA passed new rules: no unapproved VY-sits. A final sign went up by Ethan's driveway, black and gold, "Saw protected by law enforcement. Trespassers will be prosecuted." Saw the cameras stayed on, the gate stayed locked, and Willow Creek stayed quiet just the way Ethan liked it.